So today I am building a PC completely centered around the AMD Ryzen 5600G. It's brand new, it's exciting, I can't wait to put this into a machine and see how it goes, so let's get straight into it. So guys, I forgot to say, please stick around until the end of the video if you want to find out how you can win a $3,000 RAZER Blade 17 laptop and peripheral bundle. Stay around to the end of the video so you don't miss it. So there we have it. This is the Ryzen 5 5600G. It's brand new. We have done a little bit of benchmark testing on this, so it's not brand new out of the box, but it's brand new to buy. So inside of this, we not only get the APU, which is here, we also get a cooler. So AMD has supplied us with a cooler that comes with some thermal paste already applied. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep this in the box just until we're ready to put it into the system so that we can keep that thermal paste nice and clean. So this is our 5600G here. It's AM4 socket, so same as the other 5000 series. It's got a clock speed of 3.9 gigahertz. It's got turbo speed of 4.4 gigahertz, so you can overclock it, which is nice. It's got 6 cores, 12 threads, so kind of the optimal amount of cores and threads for gaming. So, you know, very, very gaming focused APU here. So this is an SSD that I found on the shelf that we had in storage, but still available. It's a great little SSD, 480 gigabytes, Crucial BX500. This is, you know, it's 480 gigabytes. It's enough for Windows and probably a couple of games on there. It's good for a gaming PC where you're not really going to be using it for a lot of storage of like movies or photos or things like that. It's simply just for a couple of games on there. So I'm also going to be putting the Corsair Vengeance LPX RAM in there. This is 2 sticks of 8, so 16 gigs, perfect for gaming, and it's 3200 megahertz, which for an AMD Ryzen CPU or APU, we know that they like to use a lot of RAM, fast speed, 3200 megahertz, probably the slowest speed. You could probably get away with 3000, but for me personally, I like the 3200. So that's there too. We're going to power it with the Thermaltake Smart RGB 500 watt PSU. 500 watt for an APU system is fine. You know, you're not drawing that much power, you don't have GPUs to worry about, but with it being 500 watt, you could probably get away, if you want to upgrade in the future, to put something like a RX 550 or, you know, a lower end GPU in the system as well if you want to in the future. 500 watt is probably more than what we need right now for just an APU. So yeah, there's a little bit of expandability, a little bit of upgradability using this particular PSU as well. I'm going to be putting all of this into the Fractal Design Meshify C case. We tested this for airflow a couple of weeks ago. If you have a look on our TikTok channel, you'll be able to see the airflow test on there. And you know what? It was actually pretty good. I was pretty impressed. So I just thought, you know, today I'm going to use it again for this build. It's a fairly cheap case as well. So kind of perfect for the price point that we're going for. Last but by no means least is the B450 Gaming Plus Max AMD motherboard from MSI. You know what, the B450 motherboard is just a solid motherboard for gamers. AM4 socket, so obviously perfect for AMD Ryzen CPUs, APUs. It's got some expandability as well, so if you want to put a graphics card in there, it's got some PCI slots in there for your graphics card, and it also supports overclocking. So we know that the APU can be clocked to 4.4, so if you want to do that, you can do that with this motherboard as well. So first things first, we're going to get our motherboard out. IO shield, keep hold of that for later. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop this on top of the box. I always try to keep the motherboards on top of the box while I'm building, just because I don't want any static or just rubbish getting into the back of the board. So you can see with this board, we do only have 2 sticks of RAM, but you know, there's 4 lanes there, so if you want to expand and put more RAM in there in the future, you can do that. But as always, we will be starting with putting the CPU, APU in there. First thing we're going to do is take off these hooks for the cooler, because we're not using these. It's an AMD Wraith, so it plugs straight into the back plate in the back. It's a really, really good idea. I think I probably say this on every build video, to grab a magnetic screwdriver. This will save your life. It really, really will. The amount of times I've dropped screws into the bottom of a case and never seen them again. I don't know where they go, but they go somewhere. I'm gonna pop those off. So what I'm gonna do first is I am gonna lift up this lever. Dun, dun, dun. And then what I'm gonna do is, if you look at your CPU or APU, there should be a little arrow just kind of in the corner here. And there's a little dot and a little arrow in this corner over here. So that tells you it needs to go in this way around. You do need to be really, really careful. Don't bend those pins. So just drop it off, no pressure. Just sort of slightly move it around a bit and it does fall into place. And once it's in place, it doesn't move around. Bring the lever down. Job's a good in. There you go. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put the cooler in. So the cooler should always, so you see these heat sinks here and here. Your AMD logo that's on the cooler on this side should always go this way. I don't know why, that's just the way I've always done it and the way I was taught to do it. So yeah, that should always go that way. So what we're going to do is line up these screws with the holes from the back plate and they just screw straight into there. If I can get them lined up, there we go. So once the cooler is down, remember there's thermal paste on the other side of it that already comes installed on the cooler. Don't pick it up or move it around, you know, once it's in, it's in. And when you're screwing, go opposite corner to opposite corner. And this is just so that there's equal pressure going down onto the CPU. Sounds horrible, but it's because there's a spring on the screw. And when you turn it, the spring's obviously getting tighter and making some horrible sounds. Make sure they're tight, but not over tightened. Last thing you want to do is over tighten and damage anything. So with this fan header, the CPU fan header on this board is just here. So, I mean, you want to sort of tuck this away as much as you can. I'm just going to tuck it in there. Or you can go over the top like this and try and tuck it in once it's in the case. But that wants to go in the fan header there. Job's a good one. So next up is the RAM, and we're going to be using, like I said, this Corsair Vengeance, but there's a couple of things you need to be aware of before you put this in. So on this motherboard, it's quite easy because there's red and there's black slots, but because we're only using 2 sticks, it's important that we put those 2 sticks in the right slot first. So on this particular board, if I just zoom in there, you can see that there's this kind of little diagram just here, and that tells us which slots to use first. So it says first on the red slots, basically. So what we're going to do is just put these little tabs down on both sides. You can see on the bottom of the RAM, there's this kind of like little cutout just here, and that cutout corresponds to this little notch that's there. So it'll only go in one way, essentially. You need to get the cutout in the right position, and then what you want to do is just even pressure until it clicks. I will do that again, and then we just want to put some even pressure until it clicks on both sides. So now that the RAM and the APU and cooler are in place on the motherboards, what we're going to do is we're going to put it inside the case. So with this particular case, in order to get the piece of glass off the side off, it's got 4 little screws, just little thumb screws that we want to take off. 1 in each corner. 2, 3, and your last one. Oh, they call them thumb screws. Jeez, they're hard to get off. I'm going to take the other panel off as well, so there's some thumb screws here and here. So I've taken both the panels off, and before I put the motherboard in place, on this particular build, I can take this off, and this is where the SSD is going to sit. So essentially the SSD is just going to sit on here like this, and then once it's screwed in, you'll be able to see that the contacts, the headers for the power and for the data are both at the bottom there. This is where your magnetic screwdriver is your friend. So don't over tighten. anything on your PC build, you don't want to over tighten. Just make sure that, you know, you screw and then it just stops, kind of like that. No real pressure. You don't want to damage any of the parts. So now that can go back in, just like that. And I will just tighten that up. On some cases, when you're putting this in place and you don't have the option to take this off, you'll have to put this in place before you put your motherboard in, because you'll have to screw from this side and the motherboard will essentially be in the way. I mean, I guess it's just habit that I would do this to begin with, but with this particular case, because you can take this off, you can just do that whenever. So it's time to put the motherboard in. So before we put the motherboard in, we want to put the I/O shield in place first. Goes in that cutout just there, and all you want to do is get it in place, and then a little bit of even pressure just to push it in at the corners. There you go, job's a good one. And it should look like that from the other side. So the standoffs, we've got them here, here, here. There's one there, and one there. So what they're for is to keep the motherboard screwed in place while not actually touching the metal of the case. So what I'm going to do, just grab the motherboard, and it goes in like that. It should line up with the I/O shield and with the standoffs as well. So there you can see it kind of lining up the I/O shield, and then you just push it into place. And there you go. So there is a standoff right in the middle there that's just a blank, and you don't screw anything into it. That's just to help you get the motherboard lined up and in place. So I'm going to grab my motherboard screws and I am going to screw it all into place. We're going to install the PSU now. So what I'm going to do first is all of the cables that are just in there, I'm going to pull them all out, just so they're out of the way. And these are all your case cables. So you've got USB, you've got power cables there, LED cables, HD audio cable, all these sorts of things that just plug into the top of the case here. So you can have your USB on button and all these things here. Also case fans. I'm just going to move them out of the way, and your PSU is going to slot in over there. So let's get this out. It's probably worth saying as well, this again isn't brand new. This is just some stuff we had in the stock room. So yours, when you buy it, will probably be a little bit tidier than this. This is a non-modular PSU, which means all the cables that you need are already built into the PSU. You can see this sort of bird's nest of cables here. So with some cases and some PSUs, you can slot it in at the side here, which I actually find a little bit easier, but this is too big. This particular one is too big, so we're going to take this off. So there's some thumb screws here, thumb screw there, and we're going to slot it in through there. So I'm just going to gather up all the cables. Cables go in first, pull them all through, and that's going to go like that. So now that that's in place, you want to get this thing back on. So what we want to do is screw it in. So there's a screw hole here, screw hole there, there and there. So we're going to screw this into the PSU first, and then we're going to screw both of them together into the case. You might want to hold the back of your PSU, like you can see I'm doing, just to keep it in place. Just thumb screws. Give them a little bit of a tighten. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to drag all the cables out here. I've pulled all the cables out. We've got a lot of different cables to think about here. We've got this, which is the 24 pin that goes into the motherboard to power the system. We have got this, which is for our GPU. But with this build, we don't need a GPU, so we can tuck that away. And then we have the CPU one as well. There's a little grommet here that goes through. I'm just going to push it through the grommet. This is your CPU cable, and I'm going to push that through the grommet that's up here. So I've pushed the 24-pin cable through the grommet there, and you just kind of have to bend it round, and it goes into the 24-pin slot. You can see on the cable there's a little clip there, clips into the 24-pin slot there. Just push it in. Oh, feels kind of horrible sometimes pushing that in, but you know, that's where it's supposed to go. It's just because it's a really big connector. So this 8-pin is going to push into there. That's going to power the CPU, and push the cable back through a little bit, make it nice and tidy. So as you can see, I've got a whole bunch of cables that need connecting. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a time lapse of me connecting all these cables up, and then I'll talk about where I've put them afterwards. I'm just going to take you through what I've done with the cable management. So all of the cables from the case I've put through from the top here. I've used one of these Fractal design Velcro strips, and a couple more Velcro strips with the 24-pin cable, a couple case cables, and the fan cables going through these. I've tied off the cables that are going to the SSD using some cable ties with the eye hooks in the case. And then this is the CPU cable that I've used some eye hooks and some cable ties just to make that nice and tidy. Cable tied them all together here and here, here again for some of them. And then with the spare cables, I've just kind of tied them up and put them inside there to keep them nice and tidy. This is ideally kind of what you want to do with your cable management. Just keep your case nice and tidy. Inside the case as well, you can see that all the cables are nice and tucked in away. So CPU cable all tucked in nicely up there, 24-pin. These are some of the cables from the fans. SATA cable, you can't even really see it there. And what I've done is I've just cable tied the USB 3 cable there as well, because it was kind of hanging a little bit. Just want to keep it all nice and tidy so that the airflow inside the case is all perfect. What I've done is I've taken the cutout from the front of the case here, I've taken that away and put 3 fans at the front and then just 1 exhaust fan at the back. What I'm trying to go for here is a positive airflow to try and keep dust out. Dust is the silent killer. Some people prefer negative airflow, some people prefer neutral airflow. For me, positive airflow is the better one because it keeps more dust outside of your case. So there you have it, guys. That's my build for the 5600G. It's really good, easy to build when you're just putting an APU in there. Obviously, you can see there is some room for improvement on this. We can put a GPU in there. There's some space to do that. We can add more RAM sticks if we want to. So there's some upgradability in it as well. But as a starter PC, this is pretty good. You can see from some of the benchmarking results that we're getting really good benchmarking results out of the 5600G as well. Really excited for this new line of 5000 series APUs. We've got the 5700G as well that's coming up. Hopefully we'll get hold of one of those so we can benchmark them and do a build with those as well. So let me know what you think of this build. All of the links to all the products will be in the description below. So if you want to go buy this and you want to build this yourself, you can do that. Let me know if you're going to do that in the comments. So give me a thumbs up on the notifications. Get in the comments and let me know what you think, and also subscribe to the channel so you don't miss another one of our great builds. Okay guys, if you get into the description, click on the link, you'll be able to see how you can win a Razer Blade 17 laptop and peripherals bundle. It's a fantastic prize. It's on until Friday of this week, so please, if you've not entered yet, enter now. Get in the comments, let me know that you're going to enter, and I'll look out for you when we draw the names on Friday. Thank you very much.